Good evening. My name is Shirley Reed, and I am part of the Main Street Bypass Committee.
Shirley, would you give me your street, please?
Yes, 14 Wilbur Terrace in Sayreville. Okay. I'm part of that committee since 2011, and I served as the secretary and took very copious notes. So if anyone is interested in the cost and so forth, you might want to look back. It's a big binder of permits and so forth. I'd like to comment on something. I'm a former educator. I taught science for 35 years at East Brunswick High School. And in my science classroom, I had to give my kids some facts before they could solve a problem dealing with anatomy and physiology or forensic science or whatever I might have been teaching. And for us to be blind to, let's say, the Acapulco pond, which I knew nothing about if it wasn't for Jay. There's a lot of things that you have to know before you're going to make a recommendation with regards to the Main Street bypass. And we needed to know. I needed to know. I didn't know, what was behind me or whatever. I live on Wilbur Terrace, and it's horrendous to get out of that street. Right, if you know where Wilbur Terrace is, right there where the cars are zooming down. It's extremely important to have someone from the borough to educate us. I found it extremely important that I had, Sergeant Bartlinski come, and the, chief of police, because Sergeant Bartlinski, he knows the rules, okay? And for us to have a committee and for you to tell us, okay, make some recommendations without professionals, that's absurd. And I take it, as kind of an insult when it was like, well, the money was spent. Believe me, I didn't spend any money. I took a lot of notes, spent a lot of time. The notes are, Paul has them at this point. I gave up my position as secretary because of the amount of notes and so forth that you had to take. I think maybe council, come to one of our meetings before you make the decision as to whether or not we need to find out what exactly is happening. As I said, I was a teacher. I taught, life sciences. Kids go to college and so forth. I just think that it's absurd that we do not have, at least at some point, direction. And when Jay was there, he certainly educated us. Okay, without weighing it one way or the other. I had questions upon questions. I learned more about wetlands. I learned more about culverts. I learned more about what could happen. As far as phase one, okay, phase one is happening. Phase two, permit. And you know what held us up? The state of New Jersey. Because we were trying to get information back from them, and it was like, oh, this person's not in, or no. I just cannot believe the red tape. So once again, if you want to know how much money was spent, okay, look at the notes. I would tell my students that. Before you make a decision on something, look at your notes. I invite you to come to our meeting. Okay, we take the time out to come to these things, and believe me, when I was approached, would you be interested in being on a committee? I said, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Try to get out of my street. Try to get out of my street. So please, council, come to our next meeting. Okay? And to say, okay, Jay can just send us the notes. Well, how am I gonna ask Jay a question on notes that I'm not sure of because I'm not an engineer? I would like to know that.
Thank you, Shirley.
I need you to identify yourself for the record.
Paul Compagna, Aquisdac Court, Sayreville, New Jersey. So, hello everyone again. Last time I was before this council, I gave a presentation, I gave you all available options, and I gave you recommendations. This council we only had 3 recommendations, and yet this council took all 3 of our recommendations and proceeded with them to vote on them, and they thought they were good ideas. I find out, 2 weeks later that now our job is done. And I find it that, the first phase, okay, that's close to being done. However, the second phase is the most difficult part of the entire project, and phase 3 will not be an easy part either, considering the amount of work that's going down by O'Neill. So I'm a little confused on that. If our recommendations are so great, why 2 weeks later is our job officially done when that is only a third of the project? The second thing I'd like to point out is talk about money for Jay. I assume that you guys know the dollar amount that has been spent this year to date for Jay to be able to make those kind of comments?
They think it's $1.7 million.
Yeah, $1.7 million.
No, actually, Matt, that was the entire expenditure so far.
Okay.
That's not just for Jay for the meeting.
Okay, so but to have Jay at these meetings, do you know the dollar amount for this year that has been spent on Jay Cornell being at those meetings?
I do. I don't have the number in front of me, but I have those numbers.
You know that it's under $1,000, right? You know that every house along the line of where this bypass road is could lose 10 times that value in home property value. Every house. And yet here we are arguing about having the township engineer at meetings that have cost under $1,000 year to date. And mind you, we're going on vacation. We take the summer off. So the next meeting after this meeting probably won't be for another month or two. So $900, guys. That's what we're here talking about today, about having a township engineer who's going to give us facts, give us detailed information, who knows this town and knows about the scope of what has to happen better than anyone. So without the township engineer, we do not think we can give recommendations because those would not be wise recommendations. So I leave it with you to decide whether or not you would like the township engineer to continue at these meetings, considering we're only a third of the way through the project, or if I need to look into a GoFundMe or something so that I can pay out of my own pocket for Jay Cornell to attend these meetings. So I live there. I will continue the fight. I will continue to make sure this project is going to be done and executed properly, that it's not done in a piece and created a $10 million loop. And I will make sure that the kids in the neighborhood are safe. And that will be through this committee or through some other means. So I leave that with you. You guys can make a decision whether or not you would, like to continue the way things are or continue with us just having meetings without Jay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Ernie?
Hi, my name is Ernie Reed. I've been on the committee for 3 years. I live at 14 Wilbur Terrace. I just want to be very brief. I'm a retired teacher with Middlesex County Vocational Schools, and for 4 years my job was the faculty facilitator of a whole school reform program. And the one thing that was drilled into my head more than anything else is if you're going to collect any data, you better collect first-hand accurate data if you're going to make any decisions or recommendations which have any validity to them. Receiving packets of information without the ability to question the person who wrote the information is just going to make our committee a very invalid group of the borough and not allow us to really do the job that we were assigned to do. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Does the council have any questions or comments for the bypass committee since they're here? I'm in the company of very smart people. Okay. Does anyone have any, on any subject, have any questions or comments? All right, then I'll take a motion to close the public portion.